Welcome back to Being the Other. I'm Dr. Dwight Turner. Let's get started. Well, welcome back. This is Being the Other. I'm Dr. Dwight Turner. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a bit about the notion of othering. I'm going to keep this one fairly brief for this week because I think it's about time that we went back and had a look at just what is othering. This is a phrase that's used quite a lot in sociology and in psychology circles, less so perhaps in psychotherapy. Something that probably needs to be used a lot more in psychotherapy. But it's a concept that actually helps us to get an idea of just what happens when we stereotype or when we objectify somebody, for example. For example, from a sociological perspective, othering occurs when we actually forget or we ignore the humanity, the innate humanity of an individual, and we actually make that person our other. We project onto them aspects of ourselves that we don't want to see. So, for example, if someone wants to see me as a man of color, as an angry black man, for example, whilst denying their own anger, they don't want to recognize who I am within my own inherent humanity, then they'll project that aspect onto myself, irrespective of whether they know me or not. I remember in the very first episode of this series of podcasts, I talked to yourselves about an example where I was seen as a bouncer as opposed to being a psychotherapist. That's a form of stereotyping, a form of othering, because it ignores who I am, which is a psychotherapist, a doctor, an academic, and actually projects onto me how the other person views men of color like myself. It's as simple as that, if you like. There is another angle, though, to othering, and this is quite important to recognize, that othering can be done to oneself. And this is where, like, a Lacanian perspective is actually very useful in understanding this, because Lacan actually recognized in his studies that what the conscious part of ourselves, what the egoic part of oneself can do, is actually other the unconscious part of ourselves. So we separate ourselves, we form a false self, and then we other that part which then is actually our true self, perhaps projecting thatwards out onto other people around us. From a psychotherapist perspective, this is quite important to recognize. Self-othering, the denial of who we actually happen to be, is just as painful and just as problematic as the othering that we receive from others outside of us. In fact, the two can often go hand in hand and can create huge psychological problems if they're left unchecked. This is what othering actually is. It's hugely important to recognize this. Now, the only way that we can actually move beyond othering on a conscious level is by recognizing, for example, the person opposite us, say the person in Costa who's serving us coffee, is a regular human being and is not just a barista whose name we don't know, who we expect to do a certain job because that's what they're supposed to do. For ourselves, on an internal level, there is something about acknowledging our own cultural, gender, sexual heritage, who we happen to be underneath the surface, and not ignoring that, not othering ourselves in order to fit in with whatever the majority wants of us. Very important. Like I said, this can go both ways. So othering, as I've already stated in other videos, and also I'm going to restate in this one, can be a very painful and psychological detrimental process, but it's one that can be moved beyond if we're willing to actually acknowledge who we are. And if other people are willing to acknowledge who we are as well. That's one of the problems with the world at the moment. We're not always able to do that. Like I said, this one's going to be a brief video for this month. I'm going to leave this one there. Always a pleasure to see yourselves. But this is just a taster of what othering is all about. If you have any comments, leave them below. If there's anything you want to say or add, send me a message. You're more than welcome to. But as always, it's a pleasure to work with yourselves. I look forward to seeing you again soon on Being the Other. Take care. Bye-bye.